Hey folks, welcome back to the show. Today we've got an all-star cast, each of whom will be introducing herself in due time, but I'm very pleased to be discussing the North Carolina chapter of the American Statistical Association, which I think is a really great subset of our professional organization. It has a lot of very involved participants. It's a great group of professionals. So if you like this, don't forget to subscribe, leave a like, leave a comment. And without further ado, we'll just listen to the intro jingle and get on with the show. All right, great. So I'll let each of you introduce yourself in turn. This is the Executive Committee of the American Statistical Association's North Carolina chapter, either current or former, or just heavily involved in some way. We've got a great group of volunteers. So let's start with Emily. Can you introduce yourself?
Sure. I'm Emily Griffith. I am a research associate professor at NC State, but I am the past president of the North Carolina chapter of the American Statistical Association. So my term wrapped up as president in December, and I was happy to hand it over to a great group who's doing a good job of running it this year.
And can you tell us just a little bit more about you? You do some cool stuff.
Oh,
Let's
yeah.
do some cool research. So let's hear about that for a second. Yep.
Sure. So my expertise is in statistical consulting and communication. So I direct the consulting core at North Carolina State. And then the classes that I teach are to students to teach them how to work with applied researchers, how to extract a statistical question out of a scientific question, to use appropriate analysis techniques, and then return the results in a way that's understood by the stakeholder or client or collaborator, whatever term you want to use. So I'm also out at SAMC this year. I'm their deputy director, and that's been really fun. So we're doing some undergrad workshops. There's an open registration right now for one if you're an undergrad. And yeah, our consulting core works with literally every college on campus. So we do research with the vet school, architecture, design, textiles, material science, chemistry, proteomics, biology, etc. I could keep going for hours.
List more subjects.
Yeah, let me think. Entomology, food science. Oh, now I'm starting to blank.
Well, enough about you, Emily.
Yeah. Thank
We'll
you.
talk about Elizabeth next.
Great, thanks, Glenn. Great list, Emily. My name is Elizabeth Mannshardt, and I am the past president, though I'm not serving in that role currently, of the North Carolina chapter of the American Statistical Association. My term as president was in 2018. Emily and I served on the board together starting in 2017, and it has been really exciting to see all of the activity within NCASA and to be involved in that community and really kind of bring the community together. We have such a vibrant group of people in North Carolina, such a diverse membership with talents in just such a great array of subjects, as Emily just listed, many of them. And so it has been really exciting to be involved in the NCASA as it has kind of rebuilt and rebranded itself and sort of had additional offerings for the community. Myself, I am a statistician at the U.S. Environmental Protection Agency. I am transitioning to a role as Associate Director of our Information Access and Analytics Services Division, actually starting next month. I'm very excited about that. So I've worked in environmental statistics for several years, doing in graduate school as well as in a couple of different postdocs. So it's been phenomenal to be at the EPA and work in that. And I'm very excited about the transition as I will be able to learn a bit more sort of about the IT side of data science. So that's really exciting. And I'm looking forward to that starting next month.
Great. And Elizabeth, I'm I didn't actually realize that you're about to be transitioning roles. It is really cool to hear about statisticians making a transition to more that IT side, or more of the, you could say, called the full stack of data science, or the full stack of statistics, where it's a lot of these not peripheral, but tangential technical aspects, and how it can really help us like deliver statistical expertise in data science on other levels. Can you tell us a little bit about what the objectives are in your new position, and sort of what challenges you're anticipating and what you're expecting to do, if you don't mind?
Yes, absolutely. I'm very excited about the role. I had the opportunity to serve as acting director of that same division a few months ago. And luckily, this has transitioned into what will be a permanent role as associate director. And the Information Access and Analytics Services Division serves the entire agency. It's within the Office of Mission Support, located in the DC headquarters. And I sort of came into that role from the analytics side, being a statistician, and was interested in sort of the suite of analytics services that division offers. Everything from sort of data visualization softwares, and currently building up our data management and analytics platform. And so sort of behind the scenes on DMAP, the data management and analytics platform, of course, is some of the infrastructure things that need to be considered on that front when we're talking about platform as a service. There's obviously infrastructure as a service sitting behind the scenes, and the division that I will be transitioning into doesn't handle infrastructure specifically, but it definitely has to work across the different communities to coordinate both within EPA with the IaaS services that are there, as well as some of the cloud offerings that are available on multiple platforms. So it's really was a great opportunity to be in that acting role, as I mentioned a few months ago, and I'm really excited about the permanent role going forward, again, as we tackle those types of things, and things like building up a data lake behind the scenes to make data products more accessible, both within the agency as well as to our external partners, states and tribes and locals, as well as the public. It's a very exciting time to sort of be on the forefront of that and work with a really phenomenal group of people that sort of have that expertise. And I can bring some to that table, of course, but there's just such a wide variety of skills that sort of fits under that data science umbrella. And so this is sort of another side of that I'll be able to experience in this new role. And I'm really excited about the role, but I'm also excited for sort of the data science community as we sort of expand or think about what that definition really means, and how statisticians sort of, where they fold into that space.
Great. And last but not least, Amy, can you introduce yourself and what you do at SAS Institute?
Sure. Hi, I'm Amy. I'm currently the president of the NC chapter of ASA. My work is with SAS. I was hired by SAS right after I finished my graduate school. I was a student at the UNC Chapel Hill, and SAS hired me as a senior research statistician developer. So my work is to design and develop software for people to use to do statistical analysis. And my specialty is in the Bayesian analysis part. So I make software procedures, the packages for people to do Bayesian computation and analysis. I have designed and developed several Bayesian procedures, and they seem to be pretty popular with users. So my work involves a lot of programming, coding, but that's not all of it. I also do research and to find out what's sort of popular in the field, then try to see whether I can implement it and then provide the software for people to use it. And I also get to go to conferences and meetings to meet other professionals in the field and also SaaS customers. Sometimes I do tutorials, workshops to show people how to use our software. So it's sort of a good combination of my statistical background and my programming skill, and also provide me opportunities to connect, to network with people. And I really like my job at SAS.
So one of the things I've always thought that the NCASA chapter always was, one of the things I found really impressive was how good they are about bringing together so many statisticians and data scientists. It's we're in an area that is very rich in this field, and while traditionally the Research Triangle Park tended to be very rich in the biofarm and the biotech area, but we've also had, as you know, a lot of like environmental work that Elizabeth is talking about. We've been very good because essentially Gertrude Cox was the Johnny Appleseed of statistical institutions, and essentially just planted a whole bunch of statistical institutions in the area, let them grow up, and we have a very wide and diverse group of statisticians and data experts in the area. We also, of course, have the leadership of 3 major research universities, Duke, UNC, and NC State. I believe Elizabeth is at all 3 of them, maybe, or close. Is it 2 out of 3? How many out of it is it?
Yes, I've had the wonderful opportunity to be at all 3 fine institutions. I did my PhD at UNC Chapel Hill in the statistics department. I was a visiting assistant professor at Duke. That was tied to the SAMSI postdoc program that I did. And I did a postdoc at NC State, and I'm now an adjunct associate professor at NC State. And they're all phenomenal statistics departments, and I get to cheer for whatever basketball team I feel like.
And I guess the fourth major statistical institution, there's of course SAS Institute, if you want to talk about our 4th statistical university. So yeah, we've had a very rich statistical community to build off of, and I think that's one of the really interesting things. Just anecdotally, anytime before the joint statistical meetings, when you go to RDU Airport and start flying up to the meetings, you are nearly guaranteed to be surrounded by other statisticians. It's everyone with their little poster tubes and everything like that. And not only that, you're almost guaranteed to run into a former ASA president as well. I think we're very well represented in that regard too. So, but what's impressed me the most is that our chapter has started to move very far beyond just covering biofarm issues. It's always been a strength, and also, I guess, agricultural statistics. But it's gone very far beyond that. It hasn't rested on its laurels. It's increasingly increased the diversity of the professional application areas of statistics. And so that's one thing that I always thought was impressive. Emily, you've had about as diverse a statistical career as anybody I've met who can still hold down a stable job.
Thank you.
Yeah. So I was wondering, you've pretty much seen the gamut of statistical applications, particularly at NC State, and with your consultancy work. Could you maybe describe a little bit more eloquently than I just have a lot of the areas where the NC chapter seems to be pulling people together and really excelling?
Yeah, well, one of the things that Elizabeth and I talked about when we took over the chapter, well, we were elected, but when we did that, we had to be really intentional because North Carolina is like a really vibrant statistical community, and there are ASA presidents like left and right, and then all of the other professional societies. And so what we found was that North Carolinians were very involved at a national level and less involved at a local level. And we needed to figure out like a value added that we could have from the local chapter that would supplement the national chapter. Because I think, and I could be wrong, but I think that a lot of times the local chapter is sort of the way that you get involved at a national level, right? You start with a local chapter, you move to a section, at least in ASA, and then you kind of work your way up as you get more senior. Or it is like the statistical community for an area. But here, it almost feels like the national ASA is the local statistical community in a lot of ways. We are Legion. And so we'd spent a lot of time talking about what specific things we could help people do with a local chapter that they weren't getting with the national chapter because everybody already does that. So yes, we've been really intentional about looking at national activities and then thinking about what we could supplement and who isn't getting that. And Elizabeth has done a ton of mentoring workshops, and then we could get into some of the more specific things we did. But all of the things that we have done were designed with an eye towards what we could provide our local community on top of what all the different amazing professional organizations are doing at a national level. So I think that's something that's kind of unique about our area.
Great. And Elizabeth, maybe you could add that to that a little bit. I have to say, I know Elizabeth does quite a bit to foster young statisticians, including the fact that she doesn't remember this, but I remember her. She was a postdoc right when I was a lowly master's degree student, right at the beginning. And then I believe it was at one of the NC State/SAMSI industrial statistics graduate symposiums when you led the EPA's section on a challenge in modeling air pollution. I believe it was air pollution traveling across the Pacific or something like that. But yeah, you've done quite a bit, and so maybe if you could talk about the various things that you've been involved with.
Right. Absolutely. That's great, Glenn. I had not realized that you had been involved in that workshop, but that also speaks to the amazing offerings that are available within North Carolina. That is the Industrial Mathematics and Statistical Modeling Workshop that has been put on by SAMSI and NC State for several years now. I originally became involved with that workshop when I was a visiting professor at Duke, and I was on the faculty mentor side. And I have since transitioned into being what's called a project presenter, problem presenter from the EPA side, and have done that for 3 years. And it's just a phenomenal workshop, and students come from all across the country to participate. So it's just, again, another example of sort of the powerhouse statistics community that's local to this area. And as Emily mentioned, we had to really be intentional about how NCASA can further serve the community. And a need that I saw in particular is to engage the younger side of the community. And sort of the way that I approached it was I thought of all the things that I wish that I had had access to, or little tips that I had known as I was leaving graduate school or in the middle of my postdoc. And so I've tried to sort of bring those together and present them in some way to the community. And of course, Emily and Amy and others with the NCASA Executive Board have been extremely helpful and involved in that regard as well. So it certainly was not a solo effort. However, it was something that was very important to me to be able to offer to the community, because I think that that's how you start to get people engaged. That's where it can really, ASA and NCASA and the sections as well that Emily mentioned, that are sections being more topic-based. I think it's a really great way for young professionals and students to find their niche, even if they don't necessarily know what that is when they're in graduate school or just starting their postdoc. That's how they can really expand on that. That's how they can meet a mentor, perhaps even a career sponsor that they can work with. And so just having those opportunities to meet people. So I think that is where Emily and I saw NCASA could really serve the community, as we do have all of these amazing programs and these fantastic people all throughout North Carolina. And unless we get together as a community, then we just see them on a website, just like we could do with someone in New York or someone in California or someone across the ocean, of course. So we really tried to focus on local events that would allow the community to come together, mentoring events. We brought back the NCASA dinner that I think has always been a lot of fun for the community. And so offering a place for people to just meet up with their friends and colleagues and for the younger side of the community to start to establish their network. You know, your current friends and colleagues are your future professional network. So it's sort of important to have a way to be able to establish that. So I think that was a large part of our aim when we came on board was to get people involved locally and then also involve the younger side of the community and find ways for students to be involved that would not take a whole lot of their time, because obviously their priority is to get through whatever program and whatever degree that they're involved in, and then secondary to that, start to be involved in professional societies such as NCASA and ASA, etc.
Great. And I think one other aspect, of course, that deserves mention is that it's even outside of academia, there's a lot of opportunity for people in industry. And well, it is a very rich interaction between industry, academia, and regulatory and government statistics. But we do have a very strong industrial component for this as well. And I don't think that no company really encapsulates the statistical industry in our area probably quite as much as SAS Institute. So maybe, Amy, could you give us a quick overview of, first of all, just tell us a little bit about SAS, and then how this expands to the rest of the industrial statisticians in the area.
SAS is a software company that's based in Cary, North Carolina. We develop and market a lot of analytics software, which helps people to access, manage, and analyze their data for their decision make. SAS software supports a lot of important work like public health, drug development, manufacturing, and banking, and so on. SAS has been very actively involved with the statistical community. SAS often is sponsor of a lot of local events, activities like NCASA events. SAS always helps a lot. The NC chapter of ASA is one of the largest chapters of ASA. A lot of opportunities like host professional webinars, leadership training courses, mentoring events, career fair, and poster sessions, and so on, to help people to get together to communicate and network with one another. For members in industry, we also provide a variety of events and opportunities. For example, our annual career information fair. The purpose of our career fair is to advertise local organizations, mostly in the industrial sector, and the types of work done by those local industrial organizations. So it's a good opportunity for a local company to advertise themselves and to get them connected with some good job candidates, and especially some local industry organizations. They might be small. For example, I know some company, there are only one or two statisticians, so sometimes they might feel a little bit separated out. So I think they want to be part of a community, and NCSA provides that opportunity for them. So that's how I felt when I'm attending some of our local events, hear what they want, and I feel the need to be connected is very strong.
Before people think that this is just a little bit too local, the fact is the NC chapter does actually have quite a bit to offer, even if you aren't located in North Carolina. For example, people out in Western North Carolina are about as far away from us for the Research Triangle Park as are people in Richmond, Virginia, or South Carolina, for example. So what are some of the opportunities that, even if someone isn't located directly in the Research Triangle Park or even in North Carolina, that they can get by being members or engaged with the North Carolina chapter? Emily?
Well, one of the things that we have is webinars. We offer 4 webinars a year on different topics that were suggested via a survey of our membership. And those are all available on our YouTube channel. So if you aren't able to see the original webinar live, you can always watch it on YouTube later. And the one coming up in April is on statistical visualizations.
Yes. And so I guess you would just say, don't forget to subscribe, leave a
Oh,
like,
yeah.
and leave a comment.
I can do that. Okay.
Oh, no, I'm just joking. We'll just
I
have
was
that.
like, wait, I can do that. Yeah.
Okay, cool.
And you can follow us on Twitter and Facebook.
Follow them on Twitter and on Facebook. All right. And connect with Emily on LinkedIn.
Please don't.
Like all our posts and Facebook.
No.
All right.
Yes. Facebook for the group, not for me.
Okay, yeah, that one. Cool. And Elizabeth, you've done quite a bit of work also helping to connect the Western North Carolina regions and the non-RTP regions, making sure that they can be involved as well. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yes, absolutely. We started sort of an initiative to connect people, as you said, in sort of the further reaches of the states. Local liaisons, you can contact the current executive board if you're interested in being a local liaison for your regional area, and NCASA can help to promote events that you might want to hold in your area. And we've also had success partnering with other workshops that might be in other parts of North Carolina. So in late 2018 or early 2019, we partnered with the environmental sections workshop that was being held in Asheville and had a joint social with them. So that was a successful partnership, and we are happy to try to offer those types of connections and partnerships with our members. Again, it's very helpful if there is a local liaison, someone that just knows which restaurant to call to get a reservation for 10 people to show up after work one night, etc. Or again, we can hopefully connect with other ASA or other affiliate workshops or conferences that might be in the area.
We're also very aware that there are a lot of students who are at some of our smaller colleges and universities across the state. And we have just started in January a travel award. It's a quarterly award for North Carolina students going to North Carolina or ASA sponsored conferences. And the focus of the award is the impact on the student. So if you're at a small school and you're not in the Triangle area and it's your first conference, we want you to apply. And all of that information is also on our website.
The links to everything that have been described are going to be in the YouTube description below, and also the links are going to be posted within the video. So if you are listening on YouTube, you can contact them or you can see those links directly.
Glenn, I'd also like to mention that NCASA started running, actually at the suggestion of one of our members, a recycled poster session that has now run twice, and I believe is going to be offered again in 2020. And it's a really great opportunity for the community to just come together and sort of see what other North Carolina statisticians are working on. But also, if you are a student or a postdoc and you have limited travel funds, you may have a poster that you want to present or you want to test out, or you presented somewhere else. You did all this work on this poster and you've only been able to go to one conference in the last 2 years. So it's a great way to showcase your work to the community if you're not able to maybe travel all the way to JSM every year as a younger member of the community. So I just want to point that out. It has already had 2 great recycled poster sessions, and I believe there's one coming in 2020 as well.
Yeah, I think that's really important. The NCASA chapter gives us all an excuse to continue hoarding our posters, and we can always use them again. We have recycling, we have statistics. What more could you want?
I also want to mention that last year, NCASA ran the first career information fair. And that actually was 2 or 3 years in the making, because again, Emily and I talked about how we had a sort of focused effort on bringing the community together. We also needed to sort of reach out across academics, industry, and government in order to sort of connect all of these communities. So we started an industry interest group that sort of helped us reach out to people in different industries. And then we were able to pull those people together to have, again, the Career Information Fair, which I believe this year is called the Statistics and Data Science Career Information Fair. So again, widening that umbrella. And that was a great event last year. And I am glad we sort of took the time to put that in place behind the scenes, because it was a really successful event. It brought, I think it was 75 participants, 17 different organizations participating. And it was not just an opportunity for an organization to showcase a job that it might have available, but it was a way for students or postdocs to learn about what a lot of the local statistical organizations might be doing. So what is a typical day as a statistician at a particular entity? What are the jobs that might be available? How do you start looking for those jobs? And just sort of how do you get information about a career in statistical science or data science in North Carolina? So it kind of went beyond showcasing a current list of jobs, although that certainly was one of the objectives, and really looked at what are the opportunities available in North Carolina as a statistician.
It's always easier to plan the second event too than the first, because we're working on the second career information fair, and we already know what we're doing. And so if you're thinking about planning something and you want to step it up, that first year is going to be a little tough, but after that it really does get substantially easier.
And I think that's one of the reasons why it's so important to have other statisticians, data scientists, even statistical programmers, in the area, because there is some extra help around and there's other people who are interested and involved. So you aren't really going to be, yes, we have had leaders such as yourselves who are doing quite a bit of that heavy lifting just by yourselves. But the fact is there's a community around it who will make sure that people will get involved if it's offered, build it and they will come. And also maybe in some people who are interested in volunteering a bit more and helping out. So Elizabeth, before we're recording, you're talking a bit about many of the benefits of joining professional societies, and I liked a lot what you said. So maybe you could just repeat again, what are some of the benefits of joining these professional societies, including just at the local level, like the North Carolina chapter?
Glenn, if I could add to that, it would be build it and advertise it, and then they will come. So that was a key part of our platform as well, was revamping our communications platform and really figuring out how to reach members. And so, again, Emily mentioned there's a Twitter account, there's a Facebook page. We also have the main website where we really made an effort to get information that the community wanted to see up on those pages. And I do want to take just a minute to give a plug, as you mentioned, Glenn, for getting involved with the ASA in some way, whether it's through the NCASA chapter, which of course we would advocate for, or possibly through another chapter or a section. I actually just gave a presentation at EPA to the postdocs group about the benefits of being involved with professional societies. So I was the statistician. They were not necessarily statisticians, but they're all postdocs in various scientific fields. And I think there's so much that can be gained from professional societies. Just through membership, you learn about sort of all the things that are going on in your community. There's a lot of different ways to just show up and be a little bit involved, just meet people, attend a webinar, that type of thing. And then there's also ways to really develop what I refer to now as your power skills. So going beyond soft skills and really building up your communication skills, your organizational skills, and your leadership skills. And the NCASA has really been a great platform for multiple people to come on in various different ways and really develop some of those skills. I think Emily and I have both benefited from that, but also we have the Scholastic Council that has enabled students at different universities in North Carolina to get involved. They have a board. They have a student that chairs that board, and they interact with the industry interest group. So that's a way for students to get involved and sort of on a leadership level that isn't taking too much away from their studies, but is also benefiting them in their career and sort of their interests. Again, we do have the industry interest group, and Sujit Ghosh has really done a phenomenal job in bringing that together, and Brian Gaines as well, who is on the executive board. And we've had people come in and try and run our communications platform because I'm semi-inept at tweeting. And so it's been very helpful to have those people. So there's a lot of different ways that you can be involved in a professional society, and you can be at the forefront, and you can be doing a lot of work, getting out there with the community. And you can also do some smaller things behind the scenes. So a society might need someone to work on their webpage, and you can do that in the middle of the night. You don't have to talk to anybody, but you're still interacting with the board, and you're still getting that experience, and you're learning about how organizations work, and you're learning, again, important leadership skills that will serve you throughout your career. So I just want to put in that plug for people that are thinking that they might want to get involved, but they think they don't know how. One, just reach out. I guarantee there's something that the board can find for you to do. There's always a need. And then two, there's multiple different ways in which you can get involved, and it can be public and interactive, or it can be behind the scenes. Whatever is sort of the best fit for your wants and your skill set. And Glenn, I would also make the further point that if people are considering getting involved in professional societies, it definitely helps to brand yourself as a professional as well. So in addition to all the great work that you can do as a volunteer, and we know we're not in it for the glory, it does help to get your name out there to the community. So if you are, a young professional, it can really help to let people know who you are and let people know what you can do, and let them know that you are interested in ASA as a community and being involved in that community going forward. So again, a good way to start branding yourself and networking within the statistical community.
Yeah, definitely. Actually, honestly, even at the recent meetup that we had with the women in statistics and data science, with seeing some of the current grad students who are there, and it's people who you wouldn't have met through other things. At JSM, everyone gets lost in the crowd, everyone except the super important people. But it is one of those things where you start meeting people at these smaller things, and you get to know them. It's like, this person's working something cool, and you get on other people's radar sooner because they see that you're involved, you got some energy, you're interested. Cool. All right, sweet. Well,
great. And Glenn, just to ping off of that, if I can just do a quick plug for ASA's Career Development Committee, has in the works planning a webinar, I believe, for how to navigate JSM as a first timer. So just wanted to let people know to be on the lookout for that, because I think a lot, as you mentioned, I was following up on what you mentioned with JSM being so big. There's quite a lot that is offered at JSM, quite a lot that you can get out of ASA, but a lot of times it can be very overwhelming. And so late spring, prior to JSM, there will be a how to navigate JSM offered by the Committee on Career Development. So you can go to the website and see information on the other offerings that the Committee on Career Development has in the works as well.
Well, thanks so much for each of you coming on. Really enjoyed hearing about everything you've been doing, even as an active member of the NCASA chapter myself. There are always new things that I found out that you guys have been up to, and it just goes to show how much is being done in this area and the value of getting involved. So thanks so much for everything you do for our profession. And well, since we're all in the chapter together, probably see you next week.
All right. Sounds good. Thanks for having us on.
Great. Thank you so much, Glenn. We appreciate the opportunity to be able to talk about NCASA. Thanks, everyone.
Goodbye. Thank you.
Well, that's it for this episode of the Pod of Asclepius. We hope you enjoyed it and will tune in for our next episode. If you're watching from YouTube, don't forget to subscribe to our channel and leave a like. You can also follow us on our other social media channels, including LinkedIn, Twitter, and Instagram. Have a great story or presentation that's ready for prime time? Or know someone who does? Drop Glenn an email because he'd be happy to hear from you. We would like to thank our sponsors from the American Statistical Association section on Statistical Learning and Data Science, section on Medical Devices and Diagnostics, and North Carolina chapter. The views expressed on the show are those of the speaker and not their employers, our sponsors, or anyone else not saying the words.